3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Mission Control. This is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands. And we've got a great episode on deck for you today. Please join me in welcoming the one and only, the Curtis Grayson III, artist and art educator. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yes, I also like to introduce Jorge Pezo Candelario, our Director of Web Development and the man on the soundboard.
How's it going, everyone? I'm so excited for this show. Been waiting years for this. It's years in the making. I can't wait.
It's a long time coming. Brother Grayson, my alpha brother Grayson, dressed in the attire suitable to an alpha man with alpha varsity, all your stuff, your merchandising, you've got boards, you brought a G-Clay print of one of your most famous pieces. You are, as Jay-Z once said, not just a businessman, but you are a businessman. So tell us, how did you turn your art into a business?
It started when I was in school. You know, I graduated from William Patterson University. I had an exhibit there. One of my professors, Dr. Jordan, John J. Jordan, purchased one of my pieces. And from there, I was able to take the money that he had actually paid me for my piece and reinvest it into my business. Started as far as, and published my first print.
Was it hard to let go of one of your, because I find it hard to like paint something and then give it away, not give it away, but sell it or even just part with it. What was that like?
It was. I was always told that is the line between an amateur and a professional, to be able to release it, to let it go.
Okay.
You do have sentimental value for things, but, I looked at the bigger picture that, I'm gaining a collector. And that collector was very valuable in my life. He always would, support me anytime I would exhibit my work.
And how do you know, how did you base your pricing on that first piece?
I think the first piece that I had sold to him was $2,000. So it was a lot of money.
Yeah, if you're in school, and it's huge.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. It was, so it was big. It was.
How big was the actual piece?
I think it was it 22 by 48.
Okay,
22 by 48.
Size.
Yeah, it was a nice size.
And what was the medium at that time?
It was acrylic on canvas. Acrylic on canvas. Yeah.
Excellent.
So it was just amazing just to have him. Take pride in my work.
Yeah.
And see the value in my work to be able to actually, own the piece.
And so how many pieces were in that first, that show where you sold your first piece?
I had about maybe about eight or nine pieces in the show. It was a dual show. So it was myself and there was another artist that had sculpture. And it was just amazing, just to be a part of it and have my first show on my campus. That was just amazing right there.
Yeah. So you reinvest back in, and when you talk about reinvest, does that mean you bought more paint, or did you start making prints so that you could sell more pieces? Walk us through because that's like the nucleus. It's kind of like you're dreaming big, but you're starting small. So take us through those early steps.
Yeah. So what happened was Dr. Jordan, he purchased the original. Once he purchased the original, I had this money now, and I was trying to figure out, well, what do I do? Yes, I bought some materials and everything, but I was like, I really wanted to really invest in myself, reinvest in myself, in which I was looking at another one of my images that I wanted to print. And I was thinking about publishing, not really sure too much about self-publishing. So I took the image and I submitted it to a lot of different publishing companies, about 6 or 7 publishing companies at the time.
Explain that a little bit, because you're not publishing a book, you're publishing art. Explain to us that process.
Right. So, this is going back way before as far as, digital media, CDs and everything. So you actually had to go had your image photographed, had slides done, and I submitted slides to the publishing companies, and they would pretty much, review it.
Yeah. And for our listeners that are born after 2000, a slide is like a tiny piece of film, basically like a miniaturized film, for lack of a better word, of your artwork in a high resolution that you could put in a slide projector, or you could produce prints from it. But essentially it was a physical I would say like maybe 2 inches by 2 inches.
It was like a 2x2,
like a 2x2,
slide,
something of that size.
The larger ones could be like a 4x5.
Yeah, Google it. Look up Kodak slide projectors.
Like a Chrome.
And I remember
slide.
them. They came in like actually you were encouraged to do that with all your art, but
that was your portfolio.
That was your portfolio. It came
Yes.
in. They would sit in these little tiny blue like cases that fit the slides in there perfectly.
Yeah, and so
Okay,
from
we're
there,
dinosaurs, but let's move on from there.
yeah, so from there, so I was able to, I sent my work to these publishing companies, and rejection after rejection.
Why?
And I was told the image was,
Not what
probably
they were looking
not marketable.
Okay.
The price points that I was suggesting too high. And I was only looking at an open edition print, so I was looking at maybe like $35, $40, for print, I think, and they were still telling me it was too high, and everybody just kept rejecting. So I decided to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to print it myself. I'm going to put on that hat as a self-publisher, and it was like, you don't even have to really call yourself a self-publisher, you publish. So I started my publishing company, and I published my own print, and the print that they told me that was, wasn't going to sell, the price is my most successful print that I still have to today.
Wow.
And it's over like 40 years now, whatever, for that print. The print was The Lesson After School. Yeah, so it was a little boy writing on the board, Black is beautiful and so am I. He was writing it like a bunch of times on the board in the class. And my goal was I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a limited edition, that it was a open edition, so that I can just keep printing it forever. Because I own the rights to it. Even back then, you made a T-shirt out of that print. Yes. So I had, collectors that had the T-shirt that still lasts. It was heavily silk screened, and they had these prints, and they tell me, oh, I still have my T-shirt. It's like over like 30 years, it's still there, So it was amazing, from there, how the process started working. Right.
What I love about you as an artist is that you figured out the cheat code for, merchandising your art. It's fine art, but then maybe talk through some of the pieces you brought with you here, like that are popular, like the skateboard decks and so forth.
And I would say even before that, as I'm always an educator. So I always believe in educating, sharing knowledge of what I've gained to other artists, that's coming up. One of the things that I was always taught was, if you're going to proclaim yourself as an artist, you need to have the Bible. Besides the regular Bible, the King James Bible, you need to have the Bible or whatever for business. So that was the Artist Marketing Guide to Marketing and Design. That book was about this thick, but it taught you everything: pricing, marketing, advertising, sales. Everything that I learned was from that book, besides me talking to a lot of other artists, and that really helped me and guided me from making a lot of mistakes.
That book had like templates too for contracts and things like that, right?
Sample contracts, about, certificates, authenticity, ownership, everything, to be able to keep your rights, to not, so it would explain, as far as if you sold work, you can tell your clients, I'll sell you the original, but the artist still retains the rights. And if you wanted to purchase the rights, then that's a different pricing, because now you're telling me that I can't make money and publish or print anything from that.
That's a key piece, because, if you sell an original, but then you retain the rights to merchandise it, you could then sell prints of it or put it on other gear or merchandise. But if they own the rights, they could do that.
Yes.
And so somebody might buy an original from you and then sell prints, and you're not going to get any of that revenue.
Yes.
Depending on your contract and agreements that you made. So a lot of this was trial and error for you. Did you have mentors? You mentioned God's favor. We know that's real. Any other folks that were around you during that time that helped guide you and mentor you?
Yeah, I mean, there was plenty of artists. I mean, I came up around where artists like Charles Bibbs, like Pancho Brown, these were like, artists that I was coming around and seeing, and they were privy to give me a lot of information and shared a lot of information about about the print market, the reproduction market, you know, and then later I started learning of other artists in other markets, in other genres. But I also I would have to say, like a quick story, to share a story, to understand how to humble yourself. When we was talking about the slides, this was a key component at that time because slides were very expensive, you know, because now you're paying a photographer to take the pictures and produce it and create the slides, and that was your portfolios that you had. So, you know, it was pretty costly to have slides because most of the time you wouldn't have one image of that slide. You would probably get maybe like 7 or 10 of the image because you had to send those out to galleries or different places, you know, that you wanted to try to do business with or try to, you know, get some type of recognition with. The time I had to humble myself, and I learned later, I submitted work to a publishing company. Actually, it was a production company. It was right after I had work that was in a film. So the first opportunity I had work in a film was through NYU, and it was through a production company. They was able to select some of my work, and it was in the film Disappearing Acts. That was Toni Morrison's famous book with Wesley Snipes and Sanaa Lathan from there. And that was great. My piece is in the film, and it was, you know, through HBO. So that started, you know, the run of people starting to learn a little bit about me. Fast forward after that, the production company had called me again, but they didn't tell me what the project was. And I submitted a bunch of slides, maybe 15 slides, you know, to this production. It was like, you know, submit to this production. And I submitted, I did everything on my part. I submitted, I sent it certified, and, you know, and just was like, okay, this is like $300 worth of slides I'm sending out, and send it for certified, you know, for a, you know, signature and everything. And then I get a not even an email, a phone call that, hey, we lost your slides.
Oh no!
Can you send another batch?
Oh no!
And my pride was hurt. Yeah. I said,
how do you even react to that?
I was very upset. You didn't know what the project was, but I was very upset. At the same time, I wanted to work, you know, but I didn't know how. I was young. I think I might have been, I don't know, I might have been probably maybe 26. And so they just brushed it off. They was just like, well, can you send us another batch? And I was like, I don't have $300 to get any more slides. And so I just took it as like, that was very unprofessional of you guys, than not me. Now, found out later what that project was. That project was, and I still, you know, like they said, there's always lessons in that you learn, no matter good or bad. Right. The project was the Sopranos when they first started.
Wow.
To my God, it was, and I was like, oh my God, the Sopranos. For whatever reason, they seen my work and they were interested. And I was like,
they were going to put it in a scene.
They were going to put it, right,
yeah.
Something like that.
It's amazing that
they would have been hanging in Bada Bing somewhere. Who knows?
Maybe.
But you're like peeling back this layer that so many people don't even realize. When you go to shoot a scene, the production company is staging all of these things.
They're making sets. Yeah.
But they're putting that much thought into it. Like, what art are we hanging on the wall?
Right.
And then
that's how I learned.
Then they have to get the licensing for that.
Yes.
I had no idea that it was that involved.
And to your point, so the first film that I had work was, like I said, Disappearing Acts. I was so happy that my work was in the film. I didn't care. Just take it. I didn't even get paid. The second time, so there was a film in between. Right. The second time was The Best Man Holiday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So from there, they had 7 pieces of my work in there.
Morris Chestnut.
Morris Chestnut, you know, Taye Diggs, you know, Regina Bell. All of them was in there. Yeah. Now I was able to get paid because they licensed. It's almost like if they wanted to have your couch or your car in the set or on the set. Yeah. You get paid for that. Right. And so I was like, wow, this is another way I can get money.
Are there residuals from that too, or just the initial licensing?
It was just the licensing, but it was for the time, but it's always in the movie. You know, you got the piece back.
You have the recognition for every single time somebody watches it.
It may not have been in the actual credits, but it's there. Yeah. It's there. I can go back and watch the film and just pause it. Wow, like, my work is there. So that became something that I would, you know, now when I'm marketing and promoting myself, like, hey, you know, I would say, you know, you familiar with the movie The Best Man Holiday? I was like, yeah, I had 7 pieces in that film. You know, like, whoa. basketball,
Yeah.
But, out of, just showing how I'm the growth, how I'm, taking my art to a different level, from there.
Amazing, amazing. Listen, when we take a break and come back, we're going to learn about how you started on your journey, like when you first discovered that gift, and we're going to definitely look at all the pieces you brought with you.
Yes.
When we come back.
Look forward.
Are you a small to medium-sized business looking for IT support? Then you've got to contact our partner, Neil Holm, who founded Impact Business Technology. Neil has created an amazing IT services organization based on solid engineering principles with IT security as a core component. With over 20 years in business, Impact BT has built a client base comprised of private equity and hedge funds, along with a broad range of portfolio companies spanning across industries, including manufacturing, healthcare, supply chain, professional services, and financial services all across the globe. For the best managed services and IT support, visit impactbt.com.
Mission Control.
And we're back. Please join me once again in welcoming the Curtis Grayson III, artist and art educator. The fans are going crazy. They're going crazy, man. Great first segment, great story. And now we want to hear your story, how you started this journey of art and turning it into a business.
Well, it really started just like I said, like in my bio. I always, I guess, at a young age, felt the need to want to be an artist. And I had
It's a young age, like 6, 8, like where are we?
I'd say like 4.
Wow. Okay.
Like when I picked up the first crayon, just was always just drawing, 2 short stories or whatever. So by the time, I guess, when I was in my early elementary schools, I don't know how, I realized that why is the art classes only 30 minutes and 45, 50 minutes for my other subjects? Like they just gave us this small little window to do art. And I wanted more time. I thirst at more time. But I recognized at a young age that why is art so short? This little window that you let me color and
This is
play
my
with.
favorite thing to do
This
all
is my
day.
favorite thing. And you're like, no, it's time to go. It's time to go to your English class, But so in my bio, I always said that, I think when I first started with, crayon and start drawing and everything, and as I grew older, dating as far as my time frame, at the time, my favorite sitcom was Good Times. Right. So it has a historical factor. So you had Jimmy J.J. Walker, who was in the scenes, and he was always painting. And so once I started delving into my history, understanding more that he's not the artist, but the artist of the artwork that was always on the scene was from Ernie Barnes. Ernie Barnes was all the work that you've seen as far as in the movie Good Time, in the show Good Times.
Like the opening.
The opening and every painting that you've seen him painting was all from Ernie Barnes.
Yeah.
Historical fact, Ernie Barnes went to Durham High School, same high school that my mother went to.
Oh, wow.
In North Carolina. And now I was at a point where like, Mom, do you know this artist? He went, I think maybe like 2 or 3 years before she graduated. And he also became a professional football player. So he, he's an artist, and now he became a professional footballer in the NFL. And so I was trying to get my mom, at a stage
And
where
he
I
had
started.
a very distinct style. Very
very elongated as far as characters.
Gestures, dance movements, fluid,
Yes,
body movements.
But just to be able to see his work is, as an artist, this showing as far as the African American experience, just, kind of like drew me in, from there. So when I started, my work, I was painting, I was drawing, I was creating. I did my first images was these African masks, because my professor was like, you got to figure out a way that you can still use your talent and not separate, because I have a degree. I have 2 degrees from William-Paterson University. One was, my first degree was African American Studies. So I have a degree in there for Bachelor's of Art. And then I went back and came back and got my studio art degree, because I knew now I wanted to teach art. So I finally now learned how to merge both of those together in my work to be able to show the dynamics of, the African American experience, and just, just the culture in general, as far as, of our people, because I seen what was missing in museums and galleries that we wasn't represented. The big boom, of course, like, when you had the Cosby Show and people were seeing now Black artwork in the homes. So that started me also, like, not only with my work, but collecting work and understanding that about work and everything. But how I started as an artist, to kind of go back, is because I had some skills also understanding about business. I was able to secure a microloan because I was a African studies major. So I always was writing. I was always writing papers, 20, 30 page papers.
Essays.
And essays and everything. So I was really good with writing. And so now I was able to, achieve as far as receiving as far as a microloan through the SBA, from there, government, assistance and working with scores, for the with retired executives from there. And that was able to start my business now as an artist.
Now, what kind of a business plan did you put together to get the microloan?
I wrote a business plan as far as, to explain as far as how I was going to market, how I was going to advertise, and show it as far as how my marketing was successful already. Because before I went into because I needed the money for prints. So what I showed with the numbers, I had already had images of 8x8 ceramic tiles that I had pretty much tested my market, that I sold successfully and was able to give the numbers.
A number of different medium too, ceramics.
Yeah. So
I want to talk a little bit about that at some point, because some of your works have actual like cloth and multimedia, I would say, materials in them.
Right. Because the ceramic tiles, all I had to do was, from my originals, I was sending out the great image, high resolution images, the digital images now, because now it was in a digital form, and I was having them printed onto the tiles. So they were printing them out, and I had a company that was producing them and printing these 8x8 ceramic tiles. The tiles were great because they were able to sit on your desk. You can take off the back. You can actually apply them in your kitchens or whatever, because it's an actual ceramic tile. They became very successful, very collector's pieces. I sold hundreds of them. So I had the numbers to be able to show the profit margin of how this product was able to sell of my work. And so what I decided to do was...
Has that ever happened, by the way? Have you ever had the need to authenticate a piece that a collector has come back to?
When you say authenticated, you mean as far as like to
verify that it's real, that it's that it's an original, or what have you?
Well, what I did as far as like with limited editions, I would sign the numbers, so I had my signature. I would give them the certificate of authenticity. Also, I would usually my prints I would stamp, so I invested in having a raised stamp. So I had an embossed stamp or whatever from there, just to kind of cover myself, that way. Never really had too many problems as far as work that was duplicated or replicated, from the other means, from there. But over time, because now I was publishing my work, self-publishing, so now I was controlling the marketing and the distribution of my work. So now I knew exactly who was getting my work. I can account to say, okay, I know so many collectors have my work, and as far as what galleries or markets that I was sending my work as far as now prints, because now I was selling. I was learning on the curve as well, because now I was selling. If I was selling prints to galleries, then it was pretty much I was getting them to buy wholesale. So you say if a print was $100 or whatever, they might have been getting the print for $50, and then they mark up. So I had to learn, the business side of that, from there, how it works and stuff. But I was learning quickly, about business very quickly.
Dope. Talk about some of the different materials you've got here, different pieces. As
a visual artist now, I look at myself as a multimedia artist. Because I work in a lot of different mediums, from oil, acrylic, pencil, especially in my education, find myself going back to ceramics now, some sculpture, but I use a lot of collage. I use a lot of fabric in my work when I work as well. So now I'm moving also into like the merchandising as well,
Explain to me it's fabric, but there's this theme. They're almost like tunnels. that I see in your work. These long tubular,
yes. From the abstracts,
mostly abstract, but maybe talk a little bit about themes. I definitely see like you've done a lot of work in Alpha. You've done a lot of stuff like I Am a Man, very like civil rights, African American history theme. But then there's this abstract that I see in your boards where you are using fabrics.
Yes.
And they're almost these caterpillar-like tubular themes that run through some of your pieces. Where is that coming from?
Well, what I tell people, I say, so the concept when I started working with the abstracts, and sometimes people, they may not want to give the credit as far as like, abstract artists, they say, oh, they looks very simple to do, but there's a method to it, and it is, sometimes more complicated when people actually demonstrate and try. I had a vision, and this sounds so cliche as I tell people, but I did. I had this vision one time, and I was just sitting in my studio, and I envisioned a cowrie shell bouncing off a cliff, going from left to right, going slowly down like this. And I just seen it on top
like
of
cascading
down or whatever, like in slow motion, and like water or something was like coming down or whatever. Very tripped out vision that I had in my studio. People was like, did you have any drinks? I was like, no, I was in the zone. I was just in the zone. I was just in the zone.
I was dehydrated. I hadn't slept for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was in the zone. But that has the method to that. So So with that, you was asking about, like those little circular, motions. So what happened is I wanted with the abstracts, one, there's no sketch. It's just me just going organically. The only thing I think about is, colors. So what happens is I'm almost sculpting on the canvas, because I'm laying out patterns. My palette or whatever, besides paint or whatever, is all different types of materials that I'm using.
So you're in your studio, you got fabrics laying around?
Fabric is
and
everywhere. Fabric and scissors and,
and
whatever type of resin and type of gluing, method that I need to, to adhere these things. My thing is, my goal is I'm forcing against the narrative against the fashion faux pas, that stripes shouldn't go with polka dots, that kente cloth shouldn't be going with this plaid, So I'm forcing all these shapes together to now harmoniously go together. Somehow.
That's what you always hear about art.
With no sketching either.
No sketch. No sketch. I'm just building, just making it happen. But the thing is, I strategically, when I go and buy fabric, like purchasing paint, so I'm looking at all these bright colors. I'm looking at all this fabric, and I go into really depth and finding like some amazing fabric. A lot of times, a lot of the African fabrics that I'm buying, and some other, just fabrics, just with a lot of patterns that I can envision and see how I want to use that into my works. So the cloth is very important now because of, I think, like I said, everything is all connected. Me having an interaction, meeting with a famous African-American artist, Benny Andrews, even though like I love Romeo Bearden, that he used a lot of, collage. He was a collage artist as well, but he did more photography collage. Benny Andrews, he always worked with fabric. And I met him and he signed my book. I remember he signed my book or whatever, congratulations, young artist on your way or whatever. And I was like so connected with that. And so now everything I did, always figured or whatever, always had some fabric in it, like it's a homage to him. And so that kind of like what pushed me that way. But like I was saying, going back to like with the abstracts, so I had this motion that's flowing through the painting. What I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that the viewer's eye could never get stalled. It can always move around through there. The little balls that you see or whatever, I tell people like I'm a movie person, I'm a sci-fi person. You remember in The Matrix when Keanu had to go through the birth canal? And he was like slipping and sliding through this crazy That's what that is, where it's traveling energy. So now I go on like on another higher frequency where this energy is fueling and pushing to different levels to get like as a fast track to get to the other side. Because
you're almost seeing frame by frame vision if you were to like slow things down to a point where you could see the energy moving frame by frame.
Right, because what I do is like and it's almost like I had like the epiphany. I spoke to one of my my older martial arts teachers, Infadishi Shaha Masi, who had just recently passed away. And I told him, I said, I think I got it now. It's like I see this energy of this yin and yang where it's flowing. It's a infinity sign where there's no beginning
There's no end.
and there's no end. So the energy is constantly flowing and moving. And what happens is those little beaded areas, that's an expressway where the energy can just cut from one side and get to another side quicker instead of just going the regular pattern that's going through. So from there, so it's so much that's happening right now, But like I said, it's so much fun when I create the abstracts because
I love it.
it's just it's no plan. It's just me
There are
just
no
going.
rules.
There's no rules. I'm
There's
just
no-
going.
Just
I'm
going.
just going.
Just
Yes.
going. I do want to get to these pieces if you can get them on camera, so we can and just talk us through some of these boards because the boards have, especially the boards have the abstracts in them, and then we'll talk about some of the merch you brought. Yes.
Okay, so here's some of my pieces. This is one of my skateboard decks. Right now, I'm focusing. Like I said, these are like made from a lot of my original work that I placed on the boards. So this is like just a snippet from a larger painting that I'm zooming in and just going from there. This is my goal to for the skateboard world is this is just my gift as far as to that skateboard world. I'm not a skater. I used to skate a little bit when I was younger, trying to find my way back into it.
It almost reminds me of like an Eric Hardy type, where your art is then being applied to different collectibles or different wearables, or in this case, these people are actually hanging boards as art, on their walls.
Yes. So So
That one's pretty dope. That one has like the PD colors.
Yeah. So that's just.
And I love your signature too.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I'm always branding. So I wanted to make sure
always be branding.
Always branding. I learned that from you. I'm a pretty good student, but so these are just like these are 3 out of I think I have five decks right now. So what we're gonna start doing is marketing these as far as to the skateboard shops. The work more for wholesale, and that's our goal. We sell retail too, but wholesale we're gonna be focusing more on boards, and then this will be starting a merchandise of merch itself.
And quickly, you mentioned Ethiopia and the skaters there. Potentially, what's the connection?
Yes, so I reached out. There's a group of young ladies in Ethiopia that skate, and I would love to be able to partner with some organizations or whatever, and see if we can gift them some boards or whatever, and hopefully maybe I can go out to Ethiopia, meet them, and just promote. It just shows as far as how skating is just all over the world, and and going across different genres, and also ethnicities and also genders as well, and just to see them all skating is just like wow, it's just powerful.
It's a great way to unify. Let's talk about Alpha real quick, and then we're gonna give everyone your handles and how they can reach you.
Yes, so this is one of my pieces here. This is my Chanel piece or whatever of the large Spanx from here that we have as far as on the sweaters. You can find these on the website. We have a couple of different items that we have. This is the custom rugby. So I had this actually produced or whatever as far as notice the black and old gold.
Yes.
So I tell part of my marketing scheme is I let people know is like if you go to like any of the other retail stores, they're gonna sell you black and yellow.
Yeah.
This is our color, the black and old gold.
Absolutely.
And I had this is actually handmade.
What's your most popular Alpha piece of merchandise?
They're all now. I have one on right now. This is the newest one right here, the Alpha Varsity, which is a multi-patch. I explained to people whereas I went vintage or whatever, and I have it on a champion sweater, so the thickness. So I'm giving the viewer, I'm giving the brothers. This is 7 patches, so the quality. So this is a little more pricey, but the quality you're getting. You're getting I look at myself as far as like. I figure I'm the Virgil Abloh for the frat or whatever as far as as a designer, because I'm coming in not just as an artist but as a designer, coming up with my concepts. My concepts are what I'm trying to
Very
do.
unique.
So
I love the wild apple jelly patch. I love that just by itself.
Yes, and that's going to be coming soon or whatever on its own sweater. I have something coming.
Well, put me down for a medium.
This
extra medium.
Extra medium.
Yeah.
But this again as an artist, this is a tribute right here as far as for the African American flag right here, Reginald right here, from there, just the multi patches from there, but everything started. It started from
this piece, right?
This piece for the fraternity world. It started from this piece. So basically, in the year 2000, the year 2000, I was a vendor at the Centennial. I had a lot of artwork, but I had nothing for the fraternity. Not one item, not a pen, not a pencil, not a hat, nothing. And it took me until 2018, I finally came up with this piece called The Road to Alpha Unapologetic, that I was able to now, come with something that can, brothers can connect with. It has, our initiation period. Then it has as far as, the Neo stage. Then by the time, he has a stepmaster. Then time by he's a junior, he's wearing as far as the vintage gear. Then with alphas, we always graduate. And now he has his briefcase. He's going out in the world. So we have it as a limited edition print here. It's only 500 in the edition. Just
and it's 7 o'clock on the clock.
Well, yeah. Actually, it's just the connection, and of course, it's the Cornell Tower. Yep. A savvy businessman. I've had brothers from Hampton that say, it looks like the Hampton Tower. And I said, well, if I need to tell you it's the Hampton Tower to get the tower, I'm a savvy businessman. I can tell you it's the Hampton Tower, but we do know it's the Cornell Tower. But I learned business 101.
Exactly.
So I understand.
Close the deal.
Close the deal. Yes, I know how to close a sale. Yes, close every sale. So I read my books.
Excellent. My brother, so how can people purchase this? Why don't you share all your handles? Talk about quickly the show in Farmington that brought you up our way. Just kind of promote yourself a little bit here as we close out.
Yeah, so there's at the Hillstead Museum in Farmington, Connecticut. There's a museum there that I'm a part of a group show exhibition. It was called, as far as For the People, By the People. The exhibit is still available up until I think August 31st.
Excellent.
Welcome to be able to go there. My handles, as far as you can go to the website. Thanks for, PD, as far as for all the designs, created an amazing website, which is Curtis Grayson, Curtis, Grayson, GraysonFineart.com. And also my Instagram, same branding, Curtis Grayson Fine Art on Instagram.
Excellent, my brother. It's been a pleasure working with you and building out your website. I know Jorge's team had a great time doing that and putting that together, and we just love the ability that you can, it's not just fine art, but it's e-commerce. People can go there and buy your works. I love it. I love what you've done, turning your art into a business, turning your passion into a lifelong journey and career. Listen, we're just so glad that we finally made this happen. You're actually here in the flesh.
Yes, no, this was a goal for me. I was like, it's been over time, but the conversations, definitely with yourself, also Jorge, and like I said, the beauty of it is seeing the fruition is actually happening. Yes. And, where the website is developing and it's becoming like the hub of what I wanted, envisioned of people going in, and now not only there but using the commerce, they're purchasing. I'm getting a little notification that Excellent. Somebody just purchased something. So I'm like, I take care of the orders and everything. So that's what I wanted, and definitely need to support these guys.
Excellent. Well, my brother, keep creating, keep doing your thing. We love your work and we love having you on our show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands.